The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaru Productions. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tokucast for a re-review. Flashing back to episode 30 of Tokucast Reviews, Kamen Rider Kuuga, which we have Marcus, we have Jacob here, I have just watched for the first time. I finished it last night. I didn't text you terribly much with my thoughts about this during it. So, blanket statement at the start, overall, very good. Overall, I really liked it. And
it's my favorite writer for a reason.
If I could be, I guess you would call it vulnerable or whatnot, or with you all for a moment, I'm glad I waited this long to watch this show. Because watching the show made me think about my tenure here at Tokucast, our tenure here at Tokucast, and how I feel I've gotten so much better at critiquing things, about putting into my own words specifically, things that I like, things that I don't like. And
you can say Winspector, it's okay.
Well, that too. If we want to specifically name a show that I detest, sure. Winspector is definitely one of them. But yeah, so it's like a lot's happened to me in my personal life throughout my time here. And, for those of you who have been with us, thank you for joining us. For those of you joining for the first time, thank you for doing so. Kamen Rider Kuuga, in a way, feels like a perfect show to encapsulate that. And also the franchise of Kamen Rider as a whole. There are so many things, whether they be small or big, that Kamen Rider has done for the first time in Kuuga and also never did again.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to go back and see this show it aired from 2000, I believe, 2000 to 2001.
Yep.
And this is one of those older shows that holds up.
Yeah, it's very much, it's the last one that Ishinomori really had like any direct involvement with, because he passed away a couple years before this, but he had, put some planning into it. It's a drama first. It's a melodrama first.
It's a J-drama.
Yeah. It's a J-drama first and like a Toku second, which really makes it stick out from pretty much everything else that has come out after it.
There is a reverence, both textually and metatextually, in Kuuga that I don't think any other show has. And with that first episode where it opens and we get that title card that says, in loving memory, dedicated to Shotaro Ishinomori.
Yeah.
There is a reverence throughout this show for teachers.
Yeah.
With Yusuke and his teacher. The way that like his whole life philosophy has been built on what he learned from him. What he has taken from someone who was just a very important figure in his life, a very important father figure and mentor to him. And how the creators of this show and the people who made this show feel that same reverence for Ishinomori.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, like, because Kamen Rider had been dead. The franchise was all but dead for like decades. It was like gone.
Well, it was like
we had a couple specials, a couple movies,
and Black RX was 88 or 89. So about 11 years.
Yeah. And
then we had, Jay, Zio, and Shin.
Yeah. But this is the first proper television show. Yeah. The return to where Kamen Rider began on television, in a big long story spanning a year, and it's like I have so many thoughts. And forgive me, I'm trying to figure out how to word them all. I try not to take notes because when I do that, I tend to write them weird and read them wrong because that's the way my brain works. But where was I? So hadn't been. Oh yeah. So Ishinomori, the way like Ishinomori's contributions to like Japanese fiction as a whole. Like when you think of like Japanese like sci-fi, superhero, fantasy storytelling, one of the biggest contributors to that is him. Like, yes, we'd had like Golden Bat debut in like 1930. We had Demon Prince Enma and like, you know, a bunch of other things that have come before that. We'd had the original Kamen Rider, we'd had Super Sentai, we'd had Kikaider and Zubat and all these many other things. And, you know, the deep breath, start again. The creative censorship that happened post-war and the boom of creativity that we got after that, in a way, this decade-plus long hibernation feels somewhat referential to that.
Yeah.
It's like we've been without it for so long. We've been without this thing that, like, we can express this kind of a storytelling with, particularly with, like, a singular... Because, like, you know, Super Sentai had Endure, but that is a team. It's, like, it's a different dynamic.
Yeah, Sentai hasn't really had, like, It didn't really have a pause outside of a couple of months after Jekka.
And then this with, like, we have a singular hero, a singular story we want to tell with them, an ensemble cast built around them. And it's fascinating how no other... I mean, like, I think some have come close, but they still feel like a Toku show first.
Yeah.
Something like Geats, for example.
Yeah.
I think Geats is a great show. It's my favorite Kamen Rider. It has, you know, big cast of characters, lots of different writers, lots of different forms, lots of action, but it also has, like, good character stuff. It also has great character drama. It's got good writing. It's got great acting. It's a great show.
Yeah.
I had texted you this. I feel this way about the violence in the show, but also so much of the storytelling. There's so much that is inferred.
Yeah.
Kuuga is a show with a very deep set of, like, lore that it has placed before us. But never at any point in this entire show do they explain all of it.
Yeah.
There aren't any exposition dumps. There are scenes where characters will, like, sit in a room. There will be, like, you know, we have, like, the journalist researcher side. We have the science researcher side. We have the police, and then we have Kuuga himself.
Yeah.
It's those, like, four factions that are, like, working together to fight the Gorongi. And at no point is there a scene where it feels like, sit down for a moment and let me tell you a story of the Gorongi and how they did things, and thousands of years ago there was the first Kuuga, and then they fought the Lento, and then Enzogavadeva did the thing, and then and then just, it never barfs exposition at you the way I feel like a modern day show that is stupid would do.
Yeah.
Where it feels like we have to take 10 minutes out of an episode to be like, and here is the backstory on everything you need to know for the rest of the show. Get back to fighting things. No, they deliver it piecemeal throughout. In scenes, in various scenes with various characters, no one is ever 100% sure of what's going on 100% of the time. And even by the end, nothing is fully explained.
Yeah.
And I think that works. We know as much as we need to know. A lot of it is inferred. The villains themselves are, even by the end when Ndakavazeba shows up, they still feel pretty mysterious.
Yeah.
We still aren't entirely sure what their end game is. Like, we have an idea, we have a vague idea, but at no point does Zeba, like, stand over Kuuga after defeating him in a fight and say, "Nah, you fool, I have defeated you. Now let me tell you my plan for all of this." No, he doesn't do that. The way he is played, which I was looking the actor who plays Zeba up, and he's primarily a stage actor.
Yeah, that's such a different presence when it comes to the camera.
Especially since he's not on camera very much.
No.
The actor is very rarely on camera or in focus. And even at the end, where they're having their climactic duel in the penultimate episode atop the mountain in the snow, and it goes back and forth between, like, close-ups of them in suit and also out of suit, and they're just wailing on each other, just blood flying everywhere. You never quite get a clear look at him.
No.
But you do hear him speak multiple times.
Yeah.
And he's so creepy.
Yeah. So, and like you can sort of see it in how the other Gorongi treat him, because he's massacred a lot of them.
Apparently it's like I looked on the wiki, it's like 152 he killed himself.
Yeah.
Because there were 200 in total.
Yep.
This show has a body count.
Yeah, this is
a body count unlike any seen before. There is an episode in the 20s, I want to say it's around episode 25 or something, where Yusuke and Ichijo are having a conversation. And they're talking about all the events with the ULFs that have been going on. And I think it's Yusuke asks Ichijo, how many people have died as a result of these attacks? And I was thinking, and I thought to myself before they answered in the show, I'm like, okay, we're on episode 20 something. There's been at least 1 or 2 on-camera deaths per episode. So, I don't know, maybe 60, I was thinking, 60, maybe 50, something like that. And Ichijo says 1,836. It's over 1,800. And that blew my mind. And that's when it really hit me how much of this show, how much of the toll of what is happening as a result of the villain organization is happening off screen.
Yeah.
You think about all the other shows we watched, every time, I mean, whether it's Sentai, whether it's Ultraman, whether it's Garo, Kamen Rider, whatever, whenever the monster of the week is attacking, you see it happen.
Yeah.
We, the audience, are always present. You think about any show from the Heisei era, especially, the episode opens, Kamen Rider is walking around, maybe with one of his sidekick characters, eating one of his favorite foods that the show has decided he likes.
Plain sugar.
Plain sugar donuts. It's a great example, Marcus. Thank you for bringing it up. I think it's a perfect example, actually. So, plain sugar donuts, and la 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 la, everything is fine, nothing is happening, nothing wrong here, doopy 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 doo. Run away, everyone, for I am Slimy Steve, and I'm gonna cover everyone in slime. Blah, 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 blah. And then that happens, and then, oh, a monster, Henshin, Hadouken. And then they fight each other, and then off to the races we go. I have just described every show from the Neo Heisei era, especially.
It's true.
That is the formula with which they chose to live by. And
unless your name is X8, then there's a good chance you might die.
Yeah. But my point is, everything that happens regarding the monster, regarding our hero, we see everything on screen. Everything is shown. Now, in a show don't tell medium like film and television, that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with showing things, but the dramatic weight with which Kuuga treats its subject matter, with which it infers things through the characters that it has. The use of his sister has the coworker, the teacher who is pregnant, who is very anxious about giving birth to her child while this is going on.
Yeah.
Like, the episode where they're at the water park, and she's talking about, like, I'm terrified. The thought of bringing my baby into the world where a Gorongi could just, like, show up at the hospital and just massacre everyone because, I don't know, that's just where it happened to be. Wrong place, wrong time. It's terrifying. For the first time ever, we feel through the supporting cast of the show and also the writer himself the weight and the devastation of what's going on.
And I think, like you said, it gets encapsulated in that episode. It also gets encapsulated in episode 35.
Episode 35. So this is an episode I've heard you and Matt as well talk about for many years.
Mm.
Whenever something gets hyped this much, whatever you like, I feel like this goes for me and also for some of you as well.
Your expectations end up being too high for the episode itself?
It's not necessarily a case of expectations, but what you can imagine is usually, and it's not just like Toku. I'm talking about like everything. If somebody tells you like, oh man, this movie, it's so violent. Oh man, like, oh my goodness, you will not believe how crazy this thing gets. What you can imagine is usually worse than whatever it is that's on screen.
Yeah.
But it's still a great episode. I still think it's a great episode. Don't get me wrong. And this, again, comes to what I was talking about with Inference.
Well, I think, and once again, this is just me absolutely loving that episode. Yeah. I think especially because of the fact that this is a two-parter. So you see all of these kids like getting murdered over these two episodes. And it's that moment at the end when Godai has like run over the monster and has him attached to the front of his bike. And you see the pictures of all of those kids, and it constantly goes back
as
to his family.
As they have, they've gone to a like.
Yeah,
he's like, rammed him with the staghorns on the bike, speeding off to get him away from a crowded area. And as he gets off the bike, he's in Titan form, just slowly walking towards the monster that has been propelled into the lake. And it's just like a close up of his face, and it's the flashes.
Yeah,
the flashes of a face on a news broadcast, and a flash of someone being. It looks like a young like high school girl, like maybe one of their girlfriends or siblings that they interviewed. Just in the little glimpse you get, you can see how just utterly devastated they are by their body language that this person was murdered. And it's all that leading up to, like prior, because like we've heard the Porcupine Garungi talk a little bit. It's more fun if you suffer.
Yeah. It's
all a game. All this death, all this chaos, all this panic, just a game. It's fun for this person especially. And when Kuuga catches him where they're hiding the one victim that's in protection, Kuuga catches him, and when he tackles him to the ground out the window and just starts wailing on him. And one of the things, and it really also, I think, highlights the suit design.
Yeah.
Especially for the Garungi in the show with the moving mouths that you never see anymore. But like the moving mouths and like the parts that are like meant to be broken away, when Kuuga is just wailing on this guy, and you feel the impact of every hit, and you see the blood, and you see parts of his jaw break away because of how hard he's hitting him. But that slow march with the sword, getting on top of him, and just
transforming into Amazing Mighty,
and just driving the sword into his body.
Amazing Titan.
Yeah, Titan is the sword form, the tank, and just driving the sword into his body, just
dragging it.
All of the rage, all the confusion, all the panic, like all the emotions, the negative emotions that Yusuke has kept bottled up to this point. It's like he finally hits a point where he just breaks and is like, you are gonna die. This isn't about, it's like for that one brief moment, this is not about protecting the innocent. This is about punishing the guilty.
Yeah. And it's also the first time that we end up getting to see Ultimate in the explosion. Because it's like, oh, that's what we're getting to. And I love I just love the fact that we end up seeing it not even really in silhouette. We see it as sort of a transparent thing, but we know that we're getting there. And it's just this is the first time that he really got, to be fair, honestly angry. And it shows where we're going to end up. And I love how they alluded to it, and then we don't even see the form until legitimately the last episode.
And even then, when you see it in the last episode, we're cutting back and forth between him in and out of suit.
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking, but yes. trying to think if there's anything else.
The scientist and her son and John.
I liked it. Yeah, she's not a good mom.
No.
But by the end of the show, in that last conversation she has with John, before she goes home, it does a good job of showing that she's willing to change. And, in a way, it's a commentary on the work-life balance that a lot of Japanese people face today.
Yeah.
Still, did back then, still do today. Financially, I can't like work less hours. I can't, financially speaking, I can't leave my job.
Yeah.
I need to be able to, I'm a single mother. My mom doesn't work. I need to be able to provide for my son. And that comes at the cost of time, of not spending any of it with him and, promising to spend time with him and breaking that over and over again. But that final monologue at the end that she gives to him where he's like locked himself in his room and he's just like despondent and really sad. But it ends in a way that I found very emotionally resonant and very nice, where he opens the door just a little bit and his little fingers are sticking through. And then she opens it the rest of the way. They have that they have a little verbal exchange, and then he just like leaps into her arms and they give each other a big hug, and it's very nice. I liked it a lot. I liked Jean too. I liked him as a character.
Jean was good, especially as a supporting character. Although it was sort of like the three of them sort of together.
Yeah.
And,
Because again, it's like different factions of supporting cast in the show. That's another thing you don't see much anymore, is like different sides of the story told from like different perspectives and professions. Because again, I like Jean and Sakura, what's her name? The other researcher? Sakurako? Yeah, her.
That's an archaeologist. That's the one who was a friend of Yusuke's who helped him translate everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was sort of a reporter, I believe.
Mm.
There are a lot of people in this show.
Yeah, so then we also have the Popo Cafe.
Yes. Which is an actual place.
Oh, that's cool. But I liked the owner. I liked Tomosabu. I liked him a lot and his dad jokes.
Yeah.
I appreciate those. He gives some much needed levity to the show. I love that his like final joke of the series is like going upstairs and pretending to get himself, so he can serve some kind of like a particular brew of coffee, and the other three characters in the scene react with just like utter contempt.
Yeah.
Jean in particular is like, I am so confused. What is he trying to do? And it's great.
I think the best thing about this, and this is just coming from me thinking back on the show, because the scientist, her name is Hikari.
Right.
It's like you end up having Godai and Ichijo sort of having, their own people that they end up going to.
Mm-hmm.
So even though Ichijo isn't a writer in this, he does have he has everything a writer would need. Like a whole supporting cast all his own. And Godai has his, and then they end up coming together. And, it's sort of one big supporting cast.
The blueprint for what they would later do in Agito next season.
Yeah. It's just the sequel. It's just good. Especially, honestly, I love Godai so much, but I love Ichijo.
Ichijo is a great character.
So good.
Their dynamic is very Batman Commissioner Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it kind of feels like a Western in some ways, where you have like the sheriff of the town is like, you, civilian, I've seen you with a gun, you're a good shot. I hereby deputize you to help me fight these bandits. And that's essentially what happens, is we have this civilian, Yusuke, going to police meetings and getting a police transponder built into his bike so he can communicate with Ichijo. And I love their dynamic. I love there is something about like a police officer just giving a civilian his gun.
Yeah.
So he can turn it into a gun and then use on the monster, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing about the way his weapons work, is he has to physically be holding something that he can then transfigure into what it is into like the Rider weapon,
which is so cool. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Bring that back instead of just sword.
He does get one though.
He does.
It's not a bad sword,
but it's cool how he does it because it's just like, oh, I don't have this at a hammer space. It's something that I actually have to get
or conjure with magic.
Yeah. Kuuga, man. It's so good.
It is a great show.
It's my favorite. And it's weird how after all these, years later, and after all these other shows that we have watched, I really don't think anything has been able to knock that. And that's saying something for its own staying power.
It's like another thing that this show started that like every other writer has done since is Yusuke is a character before he becomes Kamen Rider.
Yeah.
We get to know him as a person a little bit.
Just a good guy.
He's a good guy. He's trying to master 2,000 talents and he brings smiles everywhere, the thumbs up. Like, we learn that he is a person prior to becoming a superhero. And every other writer that we've reviewed before this is, so-and-so was part of an experiment by the evil Shaka Corporation. But before the mind control process could be finished, they were able to break free and escape. Thus did they decide to use their newfound powers for good, fighting evil and injustice everywhere as Kamen Rider. And that's all of them. It's...
except maybe Black.
But even then, we're introduced to him and he's like running through the streets confused and scared because his father like freed him and he still escaped before the mind control could happen. But it's like they're introduced as like part of an experiment, or they're an android, or they're something that was created through some sort of artificial malicious means or some sort of means to a different end. And then they discover, I'm going to make my own purpose in life and I will fight evil as Kamen Rider. And then you have Yusuke, who is, like a more talented than the average man, shall we say, but he's still a person.
Yeah.
He's still a person with his own hopes and dreams, with his own circle of friends, with his own support system, with people that he cares about, with a job, multiple jobs. And then he is thrust into this horrible war between good and evil.
And I think that's what makes the ending so prevalent, because he ends up going back to what he was doing before. It's like, I was out here helping people in different locations, and now he's on...
the Knight Errant.
Yeah, some island. Like, the last episode is his name.
It's just Yusuke.
Yeah.
And he, I don't think, has any lines of dialogue in it.
No.
And you don't see his face.
I don't believe so.
He might say, like, hello to the kids or something, but, like, he doesn't have any, like, speaking lines. It's just... That's another thing shows don't really do, is have the final episode be a reflection episode.
Yeah.
Because the final battle happens in the penultimate episode, and then episode 49 is just title card 3 months later. Every supporting character that we've known is reflecting on their time with Yusuke, about all that they have gained and lost with the conflict with the Gorongi. And it's just like a meditation on everything that's happened. It's a reflection on all that's happened. Some shows have done this.
Yeah.
But to see it done here, and then pretty much everything that came after it, especially in Kamen Rider, like everything that came after it, with the exception, I think, of Geats, is like final battle in the final episode. Last 10 minutes, we give a heroic speech about doing something. We Rider kick the bad guy. And then that is it.
Yep.
And then it's like, we did it! We did it! Yeah! We jump in the air, freeze frame, cut to like a week later, and everyone's like, yo, what's up? Good thing we beat the bad guy. I'm so happy now. And everyone's all happy. And then, in Geats, again, it's like the last bit of the penultimate episode, and then in the final episode, it's like the first 5 minutes. And then the rest of the final episode, we are catching up with the characters years later. Their wishes have been, granted. They're being overseen by Geats as he watches from afar as a deity.
Or like even in X8's case where it's, we still have a lot of work to do. It's like we're not done. Which, I mean, they had several movies to do that after. Yeah. But X8 was also short. So, had 45 episodes.
I appreciated that. but yeah, Kuuga. I think that sums up all my thoughts. It's a great show.
I'm
glad I finally got to talk about it. I'm glad I waited until now to do so because, again, I feel I have grown as a person in the time since, and I feel I can properly articulate things better in my own words. So, thank you all for watching.
Don't forget to join us on all the things, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching.